What's going on, guys? Welcome back to our Let's Play here on the Bedrock edition. Now, last episode we cracked out the kelp farm and our cactus farm. Well, we repaired our kelp farm after it broke, and I'm still running into the odd issue here and there with it, which is slightly annoying. Every now and again I'll have to go up and patch it up, and I've not actually put the fix in for it yet. Can we sleep? Yeah, once again, recording, nighttime. Oh, my timing can never be better. So, if we hop back up here, let me just see, because I've been in this area for a little bit now, I'm going to actually see if it's been busted or not. Just hop up here. Oh. Okay. There we go. Doesn't seem to have broken, and I've been here for probably about the better part of another 2-3 hours in this area. So it must be just when I'm over that area where half of one section's unloaded. And I'm assuming that this is going to be a chunk border. Is that right? That'd be 32. No, that would. It might be. If it's this way. Yeah, what I'm assuming is that the chunk border is going to be. One of the chunk lines are going to be here. And the section that's got the redstone block on that goes downwards to set off all of the pistons obviously is going to be in an unloaded chunk, while the rest of this chunk will be loaded. So although a redstone signal will be received on the redstone line, it won't be reaching the end to hit the redstone block to actually activate the pistons, which is what I believe is busting it. Which means what I may actually have to do is I could actually go inside and just do another sticky piston with redstone block, or just line the entire thing with sticky pistons with redstone blocks in order to fix it. So that way, regardless of where it's loaded or unloaded, that each line or each section is going to be individually powered. Well, yeah, that's something to think about, but it's not something that we're going to be working on in today's episode. Today's episode, I need to actually get some rockets because I forgot to grab some. Have I got any left? I've got some, yeah. It's not too bad. Come back. Thank you. I actually want to go and work on our sort of snow area. I actually want to finish the ice tree or crystal tree that we've been working on. And what I have done with these, I did say, I'm not sure if it's in the last episode, I said that I was going to swap out the glass for dark blue glass. Now, instead of swapping out the entire lot for dark blue glass, oh my god, I'm having trouble saying that now, dark blue glass, what I've done is I've alternated it. So it's like every other tree, I swapped it out. Instead of having the light stained glass, I've still got it on the inside, but on the outside I've gone with the dark blue, and I've slowly done it on every other one. So that way it adds a little bit more of a variance to the shades and colours of the trees, rather than all being quite similar with the exact same sort of colour pattern. I thought just doing every other one in dark blue sort of makes them stand out a little bit better. But yeah, what I want to do in this episode is actually hopefully finish this crystal tree, the massive one that we're building here. Now the plan with this is I actually want to take it up a little bit more, and then I want to start branching it back out with tree branches coming out in each sort of direction. And that is going to require a lot of packed ice. So in between episodes I did actually gather 2 shulker boxes full of packed ice in order to do this, and I've gone ahead and I started crafting up a whole bunch more of the snow blocks, because we're going to be using it as sort of like scaffolding. Not that one, we should have a full double chest there. It's all happy days. I have no idea what's in these other 2 shulker chests. Oh, that's our glass that we've been using, and that's our other packed ice one that we've been using for the trees. But I did go out and grab another 2 shulker boxes full, because this tree is going to be using an absolute ton of packed ice. So I've had a conduit set over in the icebergs. I sort of torn most of that down, and I managed to find an ice spikes biome, and I've got a haze beacon set up over there, and I tore most of that down. So what we're going to be doing with this is that how we've done it on the inside here using the snow blocks as inside scaffolding, we're going to be doing the sort of reverse on the outside. So I'm going to take it up a little bit more, so sort of like the same height all the way around, and then I'm going to start branching it outwards using the same technique but using the snow blocks on the outside, and then branching it up so then it sort of has a gradient, so sort of coming in and then sloping back out to the branches, which will then spread out in each direction, which will then have to go through the painstaking process of covering with the glass in order to make it crystal tree. Why is this area not got any snow on? Let me go grab some snow. Now for this, I am planning on doing a third person time lapse, but in order to do that and for it to come out decent is that I am actually going to have to switch my game mode into peaceful, just in order to be able to carry on working without having to make both my characters go to sleep, because we haven't got the spectator accounts. How have I not got a crafting bench here? Yeah, because we've not got the spectator account enabled on Bedrock Edition yet, there's no way of recording a third person time lapse without actually having a second player logged into the game. And with the second player logged in without using command blocks, there's no way of activating the sleep cycle by only putting one person into a bed. So rather than having the third person time lapse come up all sort of choppy, where I'm having to put both characters into bed and having to realign the second character in order to get a good viewpoint, be able to carry on recording without it seem like stuttery and all over the place, the easiest way for me to do it is to have it on peaceful while building this. And it is against my usual way of playing. I usually play on hard, but in order to do the third person time lapse, I think it's going to be the easier way. You would have thought that Impaling 5 would have killed like a cow instantly. They really need to up the damage on these guys. Yeah, either that or allow us to put like sharpness or looting or something on it, just so we can replace our bow completely, because 2 shots with a trident should do a lot more, like a trident should do a lot more damage than a single arrow. And with my bow, I can kill any animal with 1 shot, so I don't really understand why it should take 2 hits with a trident. Considering that it's got such a longer draw speed on it, and then you have to wait for it to come back, it should do a lot more damage than what it currently does. But yeah, I'm going to set up the second account before I carry on taking up too much of this episode with me talking. I'm going to set up the second account and we'll get this third person time lapse going. So I'll see you back after. Alright then guys, a little bit of an intermission during our time lapse here, and that's because there's a few changes I'm going to be making to this build. One is, this is the third, that time lapse you just watched there was the third time lapse I actually recorded of building the tree trunk itself. So I've ended up bringing the tree trunk out quite a way, just so then it gave it a more natural sort of sloped look, as though the sort of larger elder trees would have, just to support the upper sort of branches. Now if you're wondering how comes the branches up there look a little bit stubby, and if we go up top it is extremely flat, and there's a reason for that, and that is because instead of using leaves we're obviously using glass. Now the issue that I was running in with the glass, and I was testing this out in my test world, we've got little patches of grass I need to replace. It's winding me up. But the issue with glass is that with leaves, when you just spam them in a bunch, you can't see directly through them to the other side. But with glass, if you spam a load together, say like so, the only viewpoint you're going to be getting is it's just going to be the same as appearing through this first face here to this end face here. So even if I stack on another 20, the view is still going to be the same. The only way to change that is if we break a few of these. It's if we do that, and then you get the sort of faded look, because that way it takes into account every face that it's passing through. And that's the way that people usually use glass to do the fog effect. Now we're going to have to implement that in our sort of, it's not going to be really a leaf section, but it's now going to be a canopy, which is I think the best term to be used to describe what it's going to be. And that is because it's just going to be a massive sort of glass, it's sort of going to be a glass dome, if I could say that correctly. And but we're going to make it look sort of natural, a little bit random, but in order to do it so it doesn't become overly difficult to do is by having a flat surface to work off at the beginning. And then I'm going to build up only using 2 different colors. I'm going to forfeit the blue stained glass. I'm only going to be using the white and light blue, because when I try to implement a dark blue, although it does fit in sort of well with the trees in the surrounding areas, I tried it in a creative copy world on top of here and it just didn't look good with all 3 shades. It just looked like a bit of a mess of colours, and when you was looking through it, it just looked really blurry and murky. And with the light blue and just the white stained glass, it looks pretty decent. In my test world that I tried it out with, I've done a much smaller scale version than what I'm going to be using here. So my plan is to actually sort of build a sort of roundish shape of white glass, bring it up by a few levels with air gaps in between to give that sort of fade off look. And then I'm going to be using light blue stained glass to go on the outside of it and then build that up by about 3 layers. So you will end up with the dome shape, and then after doing that, I'm just going to go round randomly, throw in light blue glass stained blocks all over the top and on the corners, just so that it does look sort of random and a lot more natural. And hopefully it will come out looking pretty decent. I know a smaller scale version does, but whether it's going to work on a larger scale version such as this, in all honesty, for the first very large scale natural sort of build, I've gone for trying to use non-natural resources like packed dice and glass was a little bit more than I should have bit off, because yeah, it's extremely difficult to work on a large scale doing trees. When you think of using leaf blocks, if it was just leaf blocks, I could just whack them around randomly, shape it how I look, and harvesting and then breaking leaf blocks is a lot easier than harvesting and smelting for the glass and then staining the glass. And then also if you make mistakes breaking the glass, like doing that out of packed dice, if you saw during the time lapse, I ended up actually using netherrack, and that was because the first 2 attempts, after you place a block of packed dice is not instant break. It takes a little bit to actually break packed dice like that. So we've still got netherrack all under here where I use it as like a framework. There we go. And yeah, so using a sort of temporary block to sort of shape it out the way that you want it was a lot better than building it out of packed dice. I learned my lesson the hard way. Twice, that is. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to crack on and get the glass section on the top done, and fingers crossed it comes out alright. So yeah, let's crack on with that.
Jewels behind the throne, into
Alright then guys, so another quick intermission in our massive long time lapse for this episode. I've got the actual top bit of the dome done, and to be honest with you, I'm actually extraordinarily happy with the way that it's turned out. The top section, like, you've got the faded off look. I was planning on putting in some hidden lighting underneath the white stained glass, but I didn't. I tried it in another copy test weld, and it looked pretty decent at night time, and it did make it sort of glow, but it sort of took away the focus from the rest of the build. So it sort of highlighted just the inner tree section, and then you didn't get the fade off look like you do at the moment. So during the day this actually looks pretty nice. It's actually getting to night time though, and under there is going to be a death trap if I go too far away. Have I got a bed anywhere? I know that I picked up, ouch, and moved my bed. Actually, I put it away, didn't I? So, do that. Can we sleep? Thank you. So, yeah, that took the better part of about 6 hours to actually build the top dome. And I've got around about 6 hours worth of footage to condense down. And I have no idea how long the time lapse is going to be, because the reason why it took 6 hours is actually I had to go off twice during the time lapse to go gather sand, smelt the sand, and then stain it all. And I've torn through quite a lot of my lapis to do so. Bones I've got in plenty supply because I've got an AFK-able bone farm, just like a skelly spawner, so that wasn't too much of an issue. But as for the randomness of the blocks on the outside, I'm quite happy with the way that it's turned out. As you saw right towards the end of the time lapse, I just went around and literally I was just spinning around in circles, spamming left trigger, placing blocks everywhere. And then with this top section, I've brought up sections by 2, and then to get a little bit of actual fade off, what I've done is on a few of these sections is that underneath there's air blocks underneath some of these, if I can spot 1 or 2. It's very hard to tell. Working with glass, oh my god, not being able to see where you've placed glass sometimes and your eyes have become murky. But just like underneath here, it sort of gives an added bit of fade to it, which I think came out looking pretty decent. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the way that it's looking so far. Now I've gone ahead and built a massive netherrack platform underneath here, because what we're going to be doing now is bringing down the sort of shards that come down from the tree, sort of like a weeping willow sort of thing. But as opposed to the randomness of the blocks, I don't think it's going to look too good underneath. So what we'll probably end up doing is doing 2 or 3 thick sort of droop down sections, and I'll keep the colours in coordinated to their sections. So we'll have white ones down here, then we'll have the light blue ones coming down here, so that way you still get the gradient from underneath. And as you can see, although that these branches were looking very stubby and flat, now that they're actually mixed in with the glass, it doesn't look nearly as sort of stubby. And I'm quite happy the way that it sort of moulds in to holding the actual dome up. I don't think I'm going to be able to get flight out of here. Oh yes I am, there we go. So yeah, it sort of like holds it up, and it looks sort of like a crystal mushroom now, more than it does a crystal tree. But I'm okay with that, but it does describe what I said earlier, that it is pretty much a canopy that the branches themselves are just holding up. I should stop blowing through these rockets because I'm running very low on gunpowder. There's another thing that I had to go and do in between cuts, and that was put in a fix for our kelp farm. If we just head on over here, and I can show you what I've done here. Where was getting the issue with the water source blocks creating where the kelp was growing and the whole farm wasn't being loaded, so it was stopping the flowing water. What I've got here is that when I want to do a kelp smelting run, I've got a button down below in our smeltery room hooked up to a redstone torch tower, which leads to this block here. It then sends a signal just down to these redstone repeaters to all of the sticky pistons, which have blocks on them. They will get pushed down, get rid of all the source blocks of water, and that way the flowing water can continue pushing the kelp off. And I've made sure that all the kelp does still get pushed off to the glass, and it does still fall down into the other water streams, and that all works out 100% fine. So a very quick and simple fix for this, although quite expensive. I've torn through quite a lot of my slime balls, which means getting the big project on the go is a definite must soon enough. Now the good thing with this is that with the glass itself, before I built this platform, the glass does not block off the sunlight coming from the sky. Well, not to a degree that it makes a overcasting shadow like it is at the moment. So if we have a look there, as you can see, the platform's creating just like a massive dark spot. But once we get rid of that, you won't have that issue during the daytime, and it looks very, very nice. So I'm going to crack on with the last bit of time lapse for our episode today, and I guess I'll bring you back after I've done that. We are done, guys. Oh my god, did that take a long time in total? In total, we're looking at around about 9 to 10 hours build time, and then an added maybe 7 to 8 hours worth of gathering and smelting resources. So yeah, a very, very long time to finish this build. But from this sort of angle, it looks great, and flying around it, I've checked around. So what you've got to make sure with big builds like this is that, oh, let me get some food on my hotbar, is that you've got to double check it from sort of all angles. And the only angle which I'm disappointed by the way it looks, and I really don't know how to fix this, is from directly underneath looking up. Now, because the glass itself has no texture, and doing the shards sort of hanging down from over here and every other angle, it looks, I've really liked the way that it's come out looking. But unfortunately, when you're directly underneath it looking up, the glass looks very, very two-dimensional, and you can't really see a lot of texture or dimensions to it like you can from the top. Now, if you've got any suggestions on how I can add texture without spamming like glass panes, I've got a few dotted about on the tree trunk just as like extra shards coming off. But other than that, I really don't know what to do. On a very large scale like this, you can't really just spam panes to add texture to the underneath because it won't look good. And I'm really sort of lost as to what to do. Although it's very rare we're going to be coming up to this and looking up like that. The only time we're really going to be viewing it is when we're sort of flying in or from a distance, and because it's meant to be a main sort of biome enhancing feature, that eventually once this area is completely converted over, it should look good. Now these two builds at the front here, I'm going to be getting rid of and replacing elsewhere around here. Like the snow creating machine doesn't need to be there, I can probably hide that into this hill here. And the ice machine, I've actually got plans on trying to fit that in a natural cave, and that is just over there. And I found a little trick using stringing carpets that sort of mimic what the snow texture looks like from top, and it will still freeze water going through the stringing carpet, which is extremely handy. I just need to see what areas in that little section there can still freeze water. I was going to say freeze ice, yeah, that would have been wrong. But yeah, I'm quite happy with the way that it's turned out, and it's been an extremely long and tedious project, but it was very challenging. I like to give myself a challenge now and again. It's very cosmetic, which is unlike me in my episodes, but I'm quite happy to take on that challenge, building a very natural, large-scale thing or item or tree in blocks that are not natural. Like the packed ice and the glass was a very challenging thing for me, but this area here, last time I came in here I got creepered, so just have a little look around. I think we're safe at the moment. Yeah, I'm gonna have to light up here, but now in here we've got an absolute ton of room. I'm planning on putting a water elevator dead center going right to the top of the tree, and probably build some sort of farms or something within this space here. If you've got suggestions or farms that you would like me to give a go to fit into this sort of dimension, then let me know in the comments. But as for today, I think this episode is actually dragging on a bit now. And yeah, so I'm quite happy with the progress we've made today. I'm going to be putting the entrance of the tree there in a sort of slanted face, and we're going to do like an arch sort of doorway going in there, which I think should look good. And yeah, snow. One thing that I've realised as well, snow is not settling on packed ice or glass. I'm not sure if that is intended. I know on the Java edition that it pretty much settles on everything, but in this edition it does not settle on glass, which I'm actually very happy with, because it would have took away the look from this build if it was covered with a snow layer on top, and I quite like the look of it, and to me it actually looks quite like a jellyfish. I'm not too sure if it's coming across in the video for you guys, but to me it does mimic the sort of shape and look of a jellyfish, especially with the transparency of the glass playing into effect with it. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for me today. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, and hopefully you enjoyed that monumentously long time lapse. That's a very long word for me to try to say, but I gave it a go anyway. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll hopefully see you all in the next one. Bye bye.